all of them, you just have to download an archive. That's a zip file, and extract it to your desired folder. Then you just set the path on your terminal, and that's it. But for Windows, it's a bit different. But also, if you're on Linux, there's Snap Store. Usually comes with Ubuntu. But if you are whatever flavor you're using for Linux as Snap Store, you can just use Snap, sudo Snap. Then you install Flutter. That will just install it, and you can be sure that Snap apps are always updated whenever there's an update. So you don't have to mind about uh, upgrading it. Although Flutter will still tell you in case you don't want to upgrade because maybe an upgrade might break your apps. So you'll be requested if you want to upgrade, you can upgrade. If you don't want to, you can just leave the version that you have. So it's the easiest, actually. It's the easiest way to install it. For me, I use Linux and I have installed it. The latest version I've installed it using Snap, and then it's the archive version because that's the app I'm building that requires me to use a very old version of Flutter. So that one I've installed it using the zip one that you just SDK releases page on Flutter. There's a link there, so you'll be able to find it there. You just download it. Then, actually, that's another way to use more than one version of Flutter inside your machine. Maybe you want to have version 1.12 or version 1.26, and also have 2.2 or 2.0, depending on apps you're building. So you can just download the archive, extract them, and then using if you are good at bash, that is the command line, you can just change a few things then and something called aliases, so that whenever you're building an app, maybe you want to use Flutter 1, you can just point your terminal to Flutter 1 or 1.27, so you don't have to worry about having to uninstall whatever you have, then you put in the new one. Yeah. And yeah, as you know, Flutter uses Dart behind the scenes, so you don't have to worry about downloading that. It will come pre-installed, like it's part of the whole thing. So if you download the archive, it will come with its version of that is supports the Flutter version that you have chosen. So you don't have to worry about managing that. Also, you just have to manage Flutter. Uh, on Windows, it's a bit different. You can just download the latest SDK. I can show you. Okay, you just click the link, it will take you to the latest stable Flutter SDK, and then choose make sure the tab is on Windows, because if you download a Linux version, a Linux archive, that is a zip file, it it will not work on your machine anyway. So you need to download the correct version for your machine. You'll find Windows, Linux, and what Mac OS. Chrome OS is the same as Linux, so don't mind if you don't find Chrome OS. You just download the Linux version one to just work, because Chrome OS is just based on Linux. And then for Windows, I'm sure if you have installed something like Java, you have to edit the .env, that is, edit the environment variables for your account. So that's the same process you use. You just put the full path to your Flutter bin. If you open the archive that contains Flutter, you'll see there's several folders, but the first one you'll find is bin. Bin for Linux guys, bin is where you'll find the system files that you can actually use to run. It's like it's the equivalent of .exe in Windows. So you just point it to bin, and then if you have a path already created, you just take your existing with your existing values using just a semicolon. But if you don't have, you can just click on you see path, and then you create that path. I haven't done that on Windows, but I'm sure it will be seamless because anyway, you can find all these instructions on the Flutter docs installation. So after that, after installing your SDK, and make sure you have that, and you can open your terminal and run Flutter Doctor. It will give you all the information that you need, and see there will tell you don't have maybe Android Studio, or you don't have VS Code, or you don't have an editor. So now you need to set up an editor that you use. I use an editor interchangeably. It just means the same thing. So if you choose to, if you, for Android Studio, I would recommend using Android Studio if you have a Go machine. So because Android Studio is a bit heavy, so if you don't have a Go machine, that is, I'm talking about in terms of processor and the RAM, just use VS Code. Android Studio will be hectic to you. You might hate programming because this thing can be a burden on your machine. So you can choose VS Code or Android Studio depending on the other editors also, but those are the ones I've used. So I'll talk about the ones I've used. You can choose either of those. But if you want to install Android Studio, it's actually okay. If you don't want to have a long installation process, you can just install the whole thing using Android Studio, because Android Studio will install other things such as the Android SDK, the SDK command line tools, and the SDK Bluetooth. Those are what you require for developing in Flutter. That's the same thing that you would require if you are to build to install the whole thing using VS Code, because you will need an Android SDK somewhere, which you can install as a standalone. But to make your life easier, you can just use Android Studio to install the rest for you, so you don't have to mind. That includes even Java, because you need Java for this when you're compiling your apps into Android. I'll basically be talking more about Android because I have not used Flutter to develop on iOS. So, but the installation process is a bit different, because you need to have Xcode and stuff like Coco. So it's a bit different. So, but you'll find the whole instruction on the Flutter docs. So don't worry. And then after you have installed Android Studio and you have installed all the other dependencies, that is the Android SDK. Also note, when you're installing Android Studio, you'll find that it will give you an option. There's standard. I think there's a standard way, and then there's the one that you can configure the things that you want to install. So if you go for the standard way, it will install all those Android SDKs, everything listed here, and also install an emulator. So if you don't have that much bundles, I would suggest that you go with the one that you can configure. So I don't know, I can't remember the name. It's been a while. So I think it's there's standard and configurable. I don't know. Okay, just choose whatever else is there that is not standard. So with that, you now get to choose what you want to install. You'll get Android SDK, the command line tools, and all that kind of stuff. And up there at the bottom, you'll find the emulator. The reason why I'm saying about bundles, because the emulator is like 5 GB. So if you don't have that much bundles, you might even stop installing before you even finish. So after you have done the installation, you need to install Flutter and Dart plugins. For this, just search for Flutter and you install Flutter plugin. That is on Android Studio now. So you just head to preferences and settings, or settings depending on your platform. On Mac OS it will be preferences, but on Linux and Windows it will be settings. So just head over to that place and then choose Marketplace. Then you choose Flutter. Then when you install Flutter, it will also tell you will need Dart. So it will just install that for you. These plugins are just small packages, so don't mind about bundles. It's like 10 MB. So and then for Flat Studio, most of the time I discovered you have to restart it, restart the IDE for the changes to take effect. Okay, that for me was like a bummer because on VS Code I don't need to start anything. It just the way understood and that takes time to start. Oh man, it was boring to have to always start the Android Studio again whenever I install a plugin. But anyway, you can go with the easiest way, which is VS Code. Things are a bit straightforward. So now this is VS Code is quite lightweight. It's but I mean, I just say it's quite lightweight because it depends on the extension that you have. If the more extensions you have on it, the more and lightweight it becomes. So, but for starters, it doesn't have anything. Like it just give you an editor that is ready to go, mostly with JavaScript. But for other languages, you might need to install extensions. Don't worry about having so many of those. It'll still be manageable. So for I'll be showing you screenshots of how this is done later. You can just invoke the command by just pressing. But this will depend on how you have configured your key mappings on VS Code. But most of the time, I think the default one is just pressing F1. You press F1 on your machine. That is if you're on a Linux or Windows. If you press F1, it will give you the commands thing. Then you type in install, you see extensions. Then you install extensions. Or on the right, right or left? It's left. On the left, you find a few I think there's 4 boxes. That represents the extension thing. So you just click on that. Then you type in Flutter. On the search field, it will allow you to install Flutter. Remember, if you install Flutter, it will also kind of prompt you to install that. So don't worry, just type Flutter. When it realizes there's no Dart to tell you to install that also, because you can't do anything with Flutter if you don't have that installed on your machine. Then the next thing you might need now is an emulator. For an emulator, this one, if you have your machine doesn't have that much RAM, it's not advisable to run the emulator inside the machine. So the best thing you can do is just run it outside the machine. That is, run it on use your phone, your Android phone, as your physical emulator. So there are several ways to do this. They have tools that you can use for this. One is called Visa. These are the ones that I've used. There's Visa, and then there's Screen Copy. I found Visa a bit because it's not open source. So if you run it, then they're ready for ads. And then there's Screen Copy. Screen Copy is open source. It runs straight from your terminal. You don't even need to install anything else on your phone. You just need to install Screen Copy on your machine, and that's it. You just run it from your terminal. You just for the demos we have been doing, that's the tool I've been using. So you just run it straight from the terminal and you just show your screen. Just connect. First, you need to also to have set your developer options and USB debugging set on your machine. This process is quite different depending on the platform that you're on. So on the link there, you'll find ways you can do it depending on what machine you want to start using your phone as an emulator on. So that is if you want to build for Android. For iOS, it's the same process, but now you have to set it in a different way. You'll find the instructions on how to set up your iPhone or iOS emulator on the Flutter docs. Note that you can only do this if you have a Mac. So if you don't have a Mac, they can't develop for iOS. iOS you need a Mac so for you to do this on iOS, that is. So for web and desktop, you don't have to mind about installing extra stuff. You just need to configure Flutter to build for web and also build for desktop. That's and so if you want to build for, it's also not, as I said, you can only build for Windows. If you're on Windows, you can only build on Linux. If you're on Linux, you can only build for Mac OS if you're on Mac OS. So mind that. For web, you don't have to be, I don't know, but I figure this, it doesn't build if you don't have Chrome installed. So you might need to install Chrome. So for it to recognize that you actually have a web device, you need to install Chrome, and not any flavor, not Chromium or any other. I mean Chrome. So as I've said, for iOS, the installation is quite different. You need to install Xcode and stuff like that. So you'll find all that in the Apple developers website. So don't worry. If you want to check the installation process, you can just click on that link. It'll give you everything that you need to know. Plus, it might also be good if you're on a Mac, make sure you have Bryan installed, because that's the only way you get now to install things like Git and stuff. It's like Bryan gives you a terminal and things that you can actually install on Mac. So it's like sudo or apt for Linux. As I said, for Flutter to have Chrome, and this is only available from Flutter 2.0. So that's when web became stable. It was available, but it wasn't stable. But with the release of Flutter 2.0 in March or February, I can't remember the exact date, it was now stable. So if you run the command Flutter devices on your command line, you would see Chrome. If you don't have any phone connected, or you'll see Chrome as a device. So don't worry, you see Chrome there appearing. It just means you're ready to build for the web. For the desktop, that's why I say it's not yet stable. It's in beta. So if you I've seen people on Twitter building some crazy stuff. So it's good stuff. You should try it. It's there. It's there with Flutter 2.0, 2.2. They fixed a few things, so you can try it out and see how it works for you. So how do we now create a project, since now we have everything set up? So I'll start with Android Studio. If you're on Android Studio, if you open Android Studio, the first page that you see will ask you things like create a new project, and then if you had installed those Flutter plugins and that, you would see that option to create a new Flutter project. So if you just click on that, then it will give you another page that will ask you to verify the Flutter SDK that you want to use. Now this is the place where you choose which Flutter SDK you want to use for your project, because you might have several installed, but if you only have one, you don't have to worry. You'll just pick it up automatically. But if you need to specify, you need to build using a specific one, you need to now choose the right one. Because otherwise, after this, you have now to use whatever SDK you choose for your app, or just restart again. The process is for VS Code. You just need to invoke the command palette. You can just use. Okay, as I say, mine is set to F1, but I'm guessing that the default one is Control Shift and P. Yeah, I think this is P. You just click on that. It will give you like a small terminal. You can just input your commands, which will also autocomplete it. So you just type in Flutter, you'd see there's an option for create new Flutter project. After that, you now set the folder. After setting the folder, then they might ask you to set the folder before you ask you the project name. So whichever one comes first, just follow the instructions as you are prompted using on VS Code. So for whatever app you want to build, after you click, you create the project name, and then you click enter, or you press enter. It should start building your or creating your project. You'd see if you want to see the output. There's an output. There's an output window at the bottom where you can see a progress of anything that is happening on VS Code. Anyway, if you are those guys who love the terminal, process here is quite fast, and it's quite just 3 commands, you're done. So for creating on the terminal, just make sure you have Flutter installed in your pad, so that when you invoke Flutter, it actually gives you something sensible, not telling you your command cannot be found and stuff like that. So, but if you did update your pad where you're installing Flutter, you would have Flutter on your pad inside your terminal. So for creating a project, you just need to navigate to the folder that you wanted to create it in. You provide the name of the project. So you write Flutter create first app, or whatever app name you want to give. And then after that, there will be a few things that will happen on your terminal. And then when it's done, you'd see that second screen there telling you your application code is in that folder, and then lib, and then main. That is, lib main is where you put now your application. There's a lot of folders you would see when you create a Flutter project, but in main, that's where you put everything that not in main, but under lib folder, that's when you put your code. So to run it while you're still on your terminal, you need to just navigate to the project folder and click, not click, but type in Flutter run. And then if you don't have any device connected, that is like a phone or an emulator, but you have Chrome installed, that's where your app will be run by default. But if you don't have either of those, then you'd see a prompt telling you don't have any devices installed for you to run the app. So then everything in Flutter, as we said, is a widget. So it's what you would use to build your UI, your views, or even create interactivity. That is, in terms of animations, all that kind of stuff. It's all built in widgets. So it's Flutter. There's 2 ways. Yeah, if you're building on Android, you'll find there's 2 ways you can do that. There's one that is called Material App, and then you can create an app that is non-material. What those basically means, for a material app, you'd notice the app appearance would look like what you'd see in Google Apps, most of Google Apps. So, and then for a non-material app, this is what you'd use if you want to create some custom experience or custom UI that is straight different from, that doesn't look like any other. That's what you'd use. You'd use a non-material app. If you create your app, you'd see in main, the first thing that you notice, the first widget returns something called a material app. Then inside the material app is stuff like theme, home, those properties. Now, if you see material app, that means the app is a material app. Like the ancestor widget, the first widget to exist is a material app. So the whole thing now, everything below that will have access to material app widgets, because they are widgets that cannot be used inside a material app unless you have a material app widget as an ancestor. You check that. with the scaffold code that is created. I may not use scaffold code. There's also some scaffold widget inside Flutter. Okay, with the initial code that is generated when you create an app, you would see the first thing that's on the top most widget is material app. By widgets, I mean, uh, okay, I don't know how to explain that, but by widget, I mean the first thing. Those UI things that you build, they are built out of widgets, like stuff like content. Scaffold, that's a widget, Albright's a widget, everything is basically a widget. So the first thing that you'd see if you also did do a dev to inspect, the first thing you'd see on the topmost that you'd see is the material app. So and also if you're targeting maybe iOS, you'll see that you'll find that there's already widgets that you can use. These are called cappuccino widgets. You can use that will just give you your app a look and feel like it's like iOS native. So, but the good part of it is that with cappuccino widgets, you don't have to have a cappuccino app as your ancestor. You can just plug in cappuccino widgets whatever, even if the ancestor is a material app, you can plug in your cappuccino widgets inside there. So what do I mean? Like if you use say let's say for date picker inside an app, they will give you a calendar, the Google looking like calendar with a timer there, the kind of stuff you see on Android. And then you would notice on iOS the calendar and the time and all that widget, not that widget, that screen that shows you the calendar and the time on iOS, they actually pop from your keyboard. So if you want that kind of experience, you just have to change your menu that you use inside Flutter to now not be the material one, but to be the cappuccino widget one. So there's a list of all this. There's widgets which will give you depending on which app you want, the type of app you want to build, either material or cappuccino. You just see a list of widgets that you can actually put that iOS experience inside an app, inside the material app. So that's a good part of it. So if you prefer widgets from a different OS, you can still use them for even an Android if you are building for Android. And then for widgets, you'll find that there's a couple of them, like so many, but that's just built out for you to fasten your build time. But there are those that are commonly used. You'll find like for things like alignment, they have like containers, they have grid views and rows and a column. For a row, it just arranges your children widgets as a horizontally, and then for column, you find them in a vertical direction. So for row, you find that you might need it to scroll. So for this, you don't have that feature added there. So you'd use a list view. A list view now will allow you to make a scrollable list. That is, either you can scroll horizontally or vertically. The default one is just horizontal, but if you want vertical, the default for a list view is vertical. But if you want horizontal, you just specify that it will just do that for you. There's also a way you can, if you want to stack widgets one on top of the other, or build out widgets on top of the other. Let's say you have an image and then you want to create like a camera icon that you can just click and it changes the image. It allows you to change the image below it. That's when you would use something like a stack. For Okay, for material widgets, you'll find there is already like built out widgets that you can use without having to manually build them out for yourself. But if you want to go the other way, if you want something more custom, you can just combine different widgets to get the desired look that you want. Because Flutter it does allow you to do all that, to stick to one paradigm and just that's how it's supposed to be. No, you can just combine different widgets to get the desired look. So that is pretty much about Flutter and widgets and installation and everything. And now you can breathe as I jump into the next section, which I'll be talking about data and consuming APIs. So when I talk about data in the backend, uh, when you're building apps, most of the time you'll be consuming an API. That is, you won't have to build the backend. Like some backend guy already built their backend for you, and then they give you endpoints you can consume so that you get the data you need to use for your app. And then there is now how you data on your app will be dependent on which type of data you are actually presenting. So for that, there's something called state management, which is what you'd now put into work when if you get data from your backend, you need to present it on your app. You need to understand uh, what state that data is in, and how does that data affect what the user will be seeing and stuff like that. So there are two ways you can do this. There's the ephemeral state and there's the app state. Ephemeral state is just it's state that does not really last long. It just, like the word ephemeral means, this is just state that doesn't need to last long. And in a Flutter kind of app, ephemeral state is one that the other widgets do not need to know inside inside that widget. You know, think of it like as a screen, one screen. Let's say you have one screen. It's a whole widget. It's under a widget. So if you have other several screens on your app, maybe that screen doesn't really need to know or give data outside of that screen. It just contain. So when you have that kind of setup, you don't need to employ other state management tools like using block or provider and stuff like that. You can just use what Flutter already gives you, which is a set state, and also a stateful widget. So, like the app that is created on Flutter, when you see it, when you click that add button at the bottom, this state that is changing. The state is the counter. So if you inspect, find that the state is being changed by that function set state. Set state. That is what is changing the state. And you'll find that the widget is actually an extension of a stateful widget, because set state is not available if you have a stateless widget. So if you mean to use set state, you need to be inside a stateful widget. And also now, when you're talking about app state, for example, you have an e-commerce website. Things like a wish list or the shopping cart, or maybe messages, even on WhatsApp. If you switch your screen maybe to status, you would need to know you still find that the messages that you have, the chats, the counter is still there. So, and also if you go back and you read the message, the counter decreases, and that is also shown on other places. If you have if you have the message open and then you read it and then you close it, you find that the counter does change. So that means whatever that state that thing that you did by opening the message did notify somewhere else that the state of the messages that are read has changed because this guy opened this message, so reduce that counter. So that kind of state is what we're calling app state, because whatever screen or whatever widget you have opened, we need to notify other places of the app that something has changed. So you might have to now decide whether to use ephemeral state or app state. So the diagram there will give you a way or a guide on which state you can choose. So if you have data, which it's needed by some widgets, or most widgets, that means it's needed by more than one screen on your app, which doesn't need to be open. That means that you might want to use app state because something will change on that inside that widget that will affect other things on your app. If you don't need to share that kind of data, you can just use ephemeral state, which you just use by using set state. It's quite direct like that. So there are few approaches you can use, actually many. You can use when you are doing, you want to decide which state management approach you would use. The ones I've used is provide block. They're also particularly popular, and you'll find a lot of articles talking about them on how to build apps using them. So you can try provider. It's what I would recommend to start with because it's quite easy and you don't have to know a lot of low-level code for you to understand how provider works. But for block, you might need to understand more than just the basics. So get to block when you are sure you are comfortable with the provider. So, and also there is inherited widgets, inherited models. These are basically what things like provider use. So under the hood. So you can create that whole experience by just using inherited widget. But why do that when there's already somebody who created that code for you so you can use it easily? And that's where now we come to consuming data. Now you know how to manage the data. So yeah, how do we get it from whatever source we want to do that from? You find there's a popular package called, it's like I think it's the only one called HTTP. The link is there. It works cross-platform. It doesn't matter if you're using it for Android, iOS, or web. It will just work. So you consume APIs, and also when you're getting data from an API, most of the time you'll be in JSON. So you need to serialize that data into that, because now this is where you need to apply your that knowledge and object-oriented programming. So you need to serialize that data into objects. That's what you saw when you are doing the post things. We needed to turn your data from JSON to JSON, depending on where you're sending it to. Because when you're sending it out, it needs to go as JSON. When it's using it inside your app, you need to use it as that object. Although you can still use it as JSON, but it's gonna be hard for you to maintain all that data. So the easiest way around it is just use serialize that JSON into that object. If you want to go much into the details of now consuming data and from the internet and stuff, there's a cookbook on networking inside the Flutter docs. Is just there. So the next slide we have created a list of resources that I have used myself when I was learning Flutter and I still use up to this day. So there will be a good starting point, but the best starting point for Flutter it's the docs. The docs usually have everything. So if you want to check about things like the widget, you'll find there's a widget catalog that will give you all the widgets in Flutter grouped by what they do, and then you can just pick whatever one you want to use. And also, if you now want to get dirty with code, there's cookbooks. Cookbooks are just they show you how to solve like common problems. Things like the network, for example, the networking cookbook. For the networking part, there's just one way of doing it. Even if you might wanna tweak it, it's just one way of doing it. Whenever you're getting data, you just get it, then turn it into JSON, then use it in your app in your app as that objects. That will always happen. So there's a cookbook there will give you guides on how to do such things, and also even building a layout if you want to start off. And also there's the code labs, which will give you a list of they're quite curated very well for you, starting from the beginner level, intermediate to advanced. So you can just follow them all through, and by the time you're done, and you can be sure that you will have better understanding of what you can build with Flutter and how to actually build it. And then if you love videos, there's YouTube, and you'll find channels that actually do all this stuff for free. You don't even have to pay anything. So there's like the boring Flutter show. They don't show you like actual programmers doing Flutter, writing Flutter code. So when they make mistakes, you can those mistakes. You see them correcting those mistakes. You see them creating the bug. You see them fixing the bugs. So it's actually good if you just wanna see how things are by advanced senior level programmers and stuff. And then there's the Flutter. This the official Flutter channel on YouTube. So it has a lot of things like from the Google I/O talks, workshops from different parts of the country. So the world, I mean. So it has all that kind of stuff. You even find like tutorials inside there. And then there's the Flutter Way. I've used this channel to actually build some real nice, because they do create nice and clean and beautiful UIs. It will give you inspiration if you're looking for to be inspired on things you can create for UI. Just head over to Flutterway. The links are there. And also there's Code with Adrian. This one also is a great one. Yeah, he also does have a blog, so where he does whatever you see in the videos. He also blogs about them. So it's a good place to also go. Bobby one, his code is quite something. Might take some time before you understand it, but when you understand it, you begin to like it. Also for websites, there is a Flutter community medium. This one you find all these tutorials you might want. Actually, if you search for something, how to do something in Flutter, the first or the second or the third article you find is from Flutter community medium. So just head over there, you'll find a lot of things there. Android Asset Studio. This one it's not for anything. It's just for if you want to create like app launch icons and stuff like that, or other things for Android. You can head over there. There's another one for iOS. If you're creating for iOS, it's called iOS Assets, I believe. Yeah, if you can just drag in whatever image you want to use as an app launch icon, and boom, it will give you all the assets that you need to create that. You don't have to do it manually. And then there is the last one here by Ray. Uh, There's one you find there's a lot of free articles, free videos, all on Flutter app development. So there is from UI to consuming data, networking, building the basics of Flutter, even that. So it's a good place to head over, because all the courses. There actually are courses for different things in Flutter. So and they're all free. So you can head over there and you see what you find. If you love articles, there's articles. If you love videos, there's videos. So I'll be sharing these slides, so don't worry. This will land into your inbox. So that is it from me. If there's any questions, this will be the right time to ask before we jump over.
Wow. Can you hear me, Chege?
Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Oh, thanks. I do appreciate your efforts. The slides was so amazing. Thanks, man. You've taken us through everything, and personally, the session was so interesting. I think far better than the coding one, because coding ukipotea one line unaweza potea before you follow, but yeah. I think we should in the future should be doing both, like we do in a recap. Yeah. Anyway, who has a question? Who has a question or a comment? Chege, there is a group I am in, a Facebook group. Maybe I should share the link. You can check it.
A
Uh,
Facebook group.
yes, actually, I began my interest in programming grew from Facebook back in 1.2 when I used to check what other guys are doing. I'm in so many groups, and there are groups that are so resourceful. There's some groups that are so resourceful. Yeah, like that one I've just shared. Maybe you can have a look at it. And they are so
Sure.
yeah. I hope guys are listening. So guys, you can just check that group and see what you can do. Also, he has talked. The last thing he has said is rewederich.com. Uh, that that platform, when your skills are good, ama ukiiva, you can apply for writing tutorials, and one tutorial goes for around 400 US dollars. That is around 40,000. And I have a friend who 3 places. So at the end of the month, he goes with around 200K from writing. So I know some of you guys are good in that, in writing articles or writing a story. So you can think of writing tech articles. Yeah. So that has been Flutter for us. Uh-huh. I don't know whether Chege can share my screen a little bit and ask you some questions from from what I'm seeing. Just a minute.
I would also wish that we pray for the very brave men and women of our country who fought in the high court of Kenya a few days ago. And they said that the BBI that had split the country was not only illegal and unconstitutional, but now
I'm still. I think now you should be able to see it. Can you see my screen? Check it. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
maybe from that particular app, what can you say, or maybe what are some of the states, or okay, what are some of the widgets you can see? Yeah, you can maybe explain to us using that.
So, like for this app, that the first text there, fit app.
Mhm.
Then there's that virtual personal coach and the search bar. I'm sure if you scroll, if you scroll on this app, this that fit app will become like the app bar with the title, and then that text with top trends will like be the first thing that is pinned on top. So with that effect, you can get that using something called silvers. Is it silvers or silver? Okay, SILIVER in Flutter. You'll find that it gives you, actually that's what you would use if you want to create custom scrolling effects away from the normal that you are used to use. And also, there's that part which has full body program, then there's the 53 exercises that you per day. There's a background behind it. For that, you put all that inside a container, and then for for a container, you have things like decorations, and then inside the decoration, you have something like background. Then under the background, that's when you use the image. You put the image there or whatever color you want, and then the container would have a child, which inside the child you have a column, because as you can see, there's full body program. Then it's 53 exercises is below that, and then the 30 minutes per day is below that. So as you can see from that, the alignment is in form of a column. So you put your child, and then the child will be a column, and then the column would have children, because everything in Flutter is built like that. It's child, children, ancestors, what. So now inside your children, because this is text. Now it is Flutter will just use that, and now to get your desired this, because this text, the first one full body program looks like it's like a heading or something. Well, now you have text, that widget called text style, which should apply things like font weight, font size, stuff like that. Then the rest, then you use another text widget for sizes, and then 30 whatever, that's 30 minutes per day. So all you need to do to build is just that one container. Then Simon. So what you need to build is just that one thing, that contains the full body, that thing. And then you now use, the rest of the text will now be dynamic. Instead of now you had coding whatever full body program into it, you just say like, let's say you're getting the data from somewhere, and then the data has something like exercise, and then the exercise, it's like there's a class called exercise, and then the exercise has a name, then it has the number of exercises, then the number of time. So now to make this thing scroll, you now put everything here under a list view and make it now scroll vertical. So you just need to build that one thing, and then the rest to just duplicate it now with dynamic data. For the hamburger up there at the top left, that one you don't even have to create by yourself. Flutter already has that built for you. All you just need to do is, because that's an app drawer. So I'm guessing if you click on that, you slide an app drawer. There's a widget there's a widget you can use to create an app drawer for it. So you don't have to build most of these UIs. You just need to know which widgets to use. So it will give you that icon. It will appear on top there, and it will be pinned by default. For the search bar, this one you just use a text field. A text field will give you all that. If you want a trailing icon, is like that search thing. You can it has that option if you want it to be in front, or to be leading. You can just set it. It will just give you all that. You can check for this app. They have used, if you were to use it, okay, it's actually in Flutter. So I can say they have used things like silvers for building the. I'm sure this app bar does scroll. This okay, I don't know say app bar because it doesn't look like an app bar, but the distance from top trends up, that's like an app bar that scrolls. So if you scroll to kind of pin to the top, so there's that, and then for the next widget for these things that have the exercises themselves, that's a container. There's a column there for the text. Then there's text as a widget, and yeah, then the whole thing. Uh, those cards. Okay, you can actually use a card. There's another widget called a card that will give you the same layout. So uh, there's a if okay, you can use a card or a container, whichever one you choose. So all that is put under a list view to make it now scroll. Because I'm sure it does scroll. Yeah, I don't know how many widgets are those, but you get what I mean. Yeah, this is there any other?
Thanks, man. Maybe I can just share some more. You can just, yeah, just for demonstration, I will see them. I hope you can see that one as well. So, guys, you can check more from that side. Uh-huh. Now I don't
Which
know.
site you
Is there
linked?
anybody with a not site but Facebook group? I've shared the link in the general chat. You can check it. You can check it there. Yeah, you can get my inspiration for coding groups I was in. Yeah. I don't know whether is there anybody with a question.
Oh, and also for inspiration, I forgot to add that part, but okay, I'll add it to the one that I will share with you guys. If you're looking for app inspirations and let's say UIs, because you know most of us are not actually UI designers. We are given UIs we create, developers. So you can head over to Dribble or Behance. You'll find some crazy UIs there. You just challenge yourself. You learn a lot from just don't pick an easy one because you know you'll not learn anything from an easy one. Pick something that looks challenging. Try it out, and I'm sure you learn a lot of stuff by just building your UI. Or if you wanna go local, you just install the latest M-Pesa app. That thing has been redone real nice. Kudos to the developers who did that. Just you can recreate that whole thing using Flutter, and you see how things work. That's how you learn. You actually create. Don't be caught up in what we call the tutorial hell. Like just jump from one tutorial to the next, to the next, to the next, and you never have
Tutorial
any
pattern.
project you can actually. Yeah, you never have anything you can call. Yeah, this is my project. So don't just be checking tutorials one after the other one. Build stuff. You know, start with a small app, build it, find some inspiration from the Behance or Dribble, whatever, you know, find an app, create it, recreate it, make it better, move on to the next, like that. That's how you learn. You're on mute, Simon.
Thanks. I would like to to request all of you, if there's nothing else to say, you can maybe turn on your video. We take a group photo, yeah, screenshot. You're free. I can see Dan Kan Mukwe. Hi Dan.
Dan, you're on mute, bana.